For the background of your final project, you're going to need to come up with some sort of impressionist painting that really fits with the background of whatever your foreground or focal point is going to be. So this example, the foreground is a turtle. So for the background, I did a impressionist style watercolor painting of just kind of an underwater color. So where you have the blues, greens, and yellows that are all blended nicely together. If you're doing maybe a landscape, you could have a sunset in the background. Or if you're doing trees, maybe you have more cloud, sky, and grass in the background. But whatever you choose, it should definitely be something simplified. So in the water, it's not a very detailed water scene. I'm just kind of painting those base colors with this impressionist style. So for your practice, you can use any 2 to 3 colors that you would like to use. What I'm going to start painting is more of a sunset background for this practice. But again, use any colors that you would like and just kind of blend them together. So either fade from one color at the top to one color at the bottom, or you could go kind of left to right with it. But feel free to follow along with exactly what I do here for practice, or again, you can kind of change it up if you would like. But I'm starting with that smaller practice square that we're working with. And at the top, I'm just going to start with blue paint. So I'm grabbing a little bit of water, a little bit of the blue paint, and instead of just shading everything in with the watercolor, I'm using those textured lines. So I'm painting horizontally, and you can really see the texture or the individual brush strokes. Some lines might be darker, some lines might be lighter. At some points, you might use a lot of water and it might kind of blend them together. So whatever you end up with is completely fine. We're going to be working in layers. So take your time with it and really start to kind of blend colors as you go. So I'm starting with the blue and I'm going into purple next since I'm doing more kind of sunset colors. So I'm taking the purple and just kind of filling in the gaps or going on top of the blue and leaving some of the texture there. So I'm still able to see a lot of the blue at the top, but I'm just kind of fading into the purple. So now I'm starting to fill in more and more of the purple over top of the blue. And again, just using lines going left to right to really fill things in. And if I'm leaving gaps or leaving spaces of white, that's fine. I'll start to fill those gaps in with my next color when I get there. But every once in a while, I'm grabbing a little bit more water. I'm just trying to blend things together. And then I can always come back to the blue if I need to bring the blue down a little bit further. But I'm leaving some white at the bottom, just trying to bring that purple down a bit. And then I'm going to move on to red next. So I'm grabbing a little bit of red and just bringing that up into the purple. So the red and purple are what's going to blend well together. So I'm trying to avoid getting the red and the blue touching too much, because that's where you'll start to get a mucky color, is where colors that are on the color wheel that are next to each other, those are able to touch, but colors that are not next to each other on the color wheel are mixing and touching is where you'll run into those issues. So again, think about any 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel that you can be working with, 3 or 4, to start to kind of blend your practice background together. So as you're looking at this, you can really see the texture, you can see a lot of lines. We can go back on top of it with charcoal, black and white charcoal, just like what we've been doing to really emphasize the texture and value change. But for now, I'm just bringing in the red and then bringing that down into the orange, trying not to blend the orange and purple too much since those are not next to each other on the color wheel. But just working on getting the orange and the red blended nicely, still being able to see a lot of those lines and texture with it. So now I'm going back to the red, just bringing the red down a little bit more into the orange. One idea you can try too, since this is a sunset, is maybe trying to bring back some clouds. So while it's still wet, if you take a paper towel and just kind of dab down a little bit, it'll create a texture in there. So that's something else you can try out, is just a little bit of texture. But I decided to go back over it a little bit just to bring more of that red mixed in with the purple there. And if at any point you add too much water or too much of a color you don't want on there, the paper towel works great to, again, just kind of dab or get rid of the extra water or color. But now I'm going back in with the purple and I'm just working with emphasizing some of those lines. So I'm really trying to bring out the texture with things, get a nice sunset value and color scale in there. So you can see I'm using not very much water and just trying to bring in darker lines with it. Now I'm going back in with the red again, bringing it back up on top of the purple, mixing that down. So just play around with the different colors. Try to keep layering things as you go. So here is the finished product. Again, I decided to bring a little bit more cloud into it and try to mix that orange and red a little bit further at the bottom.